But I really hope she accepts. Kwa hiyo upo wazi. Greetings, everybody. Keep joining. Thanks to those who are joining right now. As we keep waiting for others, let's give them at least some 3 minutes and then we can go live. Thank you. Nani Clara, email zimeshatuma ile link mpya? Maana me don't get the emails. Au wote 150 zao 150. Okay. Na huyu Regina anafanya kazi gani? Sasa mbona hata kwenye group kule haingii kuambia watu wajue? What does she do? Sielewi au inakuwaje yani jamani? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining from. This is Gloria Anderson speaking from TEDI, Tanzania. Thank you so much for joining today. So just to give you a brief of what is happening today and what we should really be expecting. We are going to have a discussion on international policies, on migration and climate. And this is part of the workshops that are happening as a way of implementing the Youth Eco Resilience Program, which is an Erasmus EU-funded program that is being implemented across different countries with a number of partners. So without further ado, I would like, would be okay if everybody can introduce themselves in the chat box. Just say your name and the country you're from. And if you're part of the implementing partners, you can also indicate that so that the participants can know who are the representing partners in the meeting today. And that being the case, I would like to showcase the agenda for the workshop today so that we can quickly start our presentation. But please, I would like you guys to be introducing yourself. Just say your name, the country you're from, and if you are an climate activist or a youth worker, you can also indicate in the chat box. In the meantime, I will be showcasing our agenda for the day so we can proceed. Can you all see my screen? I would like one person to confirm if you can see my screen on the agenda.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So our program is called the Youth Eco Resilience Project. It is a project that comes in to educate youth workers and also youth activists and youth as well on a number of understanding on issues of climate and migration. And for the past few days, we have been having about 4 workshops that we have been implementing by a number of different partners that are part of the program. And today we are in workshop 5. I'm sure the files were sent to you, most of the participants, and you are able to go through. So I'll just use a minute or two to take you through what we should expect today. And then after that, we'll proceed with our presentation. So basically, the first part was the welcoming and introduction. We will go through understanding how climate change is reshaping mobility patterns globally, key statistics and projections for 2050. We'll also learn on climate change and human mobility. We'll also get to learn on the legal gaps that exist on international policies, as well as deep diving on international policies. We'll go through all of them and also learn on a few case studies, and then we will conclude. So right now, I would like to open our presentation. I hope Regina is... Wow. Regina, are you there?
Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth.
Can I also request, if you're not speaking, would you please mute your mic? Thank you. Regina, are you ready? I can showcase the screen for you to start the presentation on the first slides.
Yes, my headset.
Is Regina there? All right, so I will proceed. So our project is called Youth Eco Resilience Program, project, as I've said, and the topic today is on international policies, on climate and migration, basically understanding the global frameworks, gaps, and opportunities that exist in the areas of international policies and climate migration. First, before kicking off the discussion, I would like to throw out a few reflection questions. How many of you have seen climate events like floods or droughts directly force people to move in your community or country? And also, do you think the current international laws adequately protect people displaced by climate change? Is there anyone among you who have seen climate events like floods or droughts? You can raise your hands. You can just, you don't need to.
But I can take that to analyze.
Basically, you can just raise your hand if you have. You can raise your hand if you have seen such incidents. Okay, most of you. Because I'm showcasing my screen, I cannot really see all of the activities, but I'm sure most of you, which is great. And do you think current international laws adequately protect people displaced by climate change? You can also put this in the chat box. If you think the current international laws are adequately protecting people displaced by climate change, you can say yes, they do, or no, they don't.
To go with that class without making.
Again, please, would you mute your mic if you're not the one speaking? Thank you. And Clara, if you can also help me to be muting everybody who is not speaking. Thank you. All right, so why does this topic matters? Like, why does the topic on international policies on migration matters? So basically, this matters because climate change is reshaping mobility patterns globally, and more frequent droughts, floods, and storms are displacing a lot of millions of people. And also, climate-related migration are projected to rise significantly by 2050. Now let's get into the the deep part of our discussion today. We're looking at the climate change and human mobility. Before we touch into international policies and frameworks that have been placed, it will be okay for us to deep dive on the climate change and human mobility. First, understanding what does it mean by displacement? What does it mean by migration and planned relocation? When we say climate migration, displacement means this is a sudden forced movement whereby people are being forced to being moved from a place to another place because of the disaster that have been caused by climatic events. Migration, these are voluntary movement as adaptation. People might migrate because they've just decided to migrate. People might migrate because they've been asked to migrate because of what is happening environmentally in their areas. But also there are planned relocation. I think in most cases, in most countries, we see people are being relocated by the government or by the authorities. For instance, in Tanzania, 2 years back, we have seen Maasai people living in Ngorongoro areas were forced by the government to relocate from their places, from the areas that they were dwelling. And so there are planned relocations as well. It's very important for us all to understand these three key items as we move forward. It will give us a quicker understanding of the international policies when we get to them. Then you might also ask yourself, what is internally displaced person and what is a climate refugee? Because every person who moves from a place to another place because of climatic change effects, they might be an internally displaced person or climate refugee. Who is an internally displaced person? An internally displaced person is a person who has been forced to leave their homes due to conflict, disasters, or environmental impacts, but who remain within their own country. So basically, they have been displaced, but they are still within the territories of their own country. But a climate refugee is commonly used term for people displaced by climate impacts, but not a legally recognized status, meaning that they do not receive refugee protection under international law. And they can be from a different, they can move even in another country or another territory that they were never belonging before, but they are not legally recognized as refugees. And we'll also look, when we get into the international policies on understanding all this, we will deep dive further to understand the challenges that climate refugees faces when it comes to their displacement. So now let's look at the legal gaps. Why climate migrants remain vulnerable? So they remain vulnerable because first, internationally, they are not like the term climate refugee is not yet recognized. So currently, the international law of 1951 of Refugee Convention only protects those fleeing persecution based on race, religion, nationally political opinion, or membership in a particular social group, but not typically you have been displaced because of climate effects. So that causes climate refugee not to get a lot of benefits other refugees are getting when they move to a different country. Another component that I want us to deep dive when it comes to the legal gaps that exist is millions are being displaced but unprotected. The UN estimates that tens of millions are displaced annually due to climate-related disasters. But this population are neither refugees nor recognized under domestic migration policies in many countries. So basically, they tend to not get the proper, they don't get the proper benefits refugees get when they reside in a different country. Also, refugee laws requires persecution, not environmental change. And this is something that we really need to understand when we discuss international policies, because personally, I feel like it's not okay and it's not right to basically recognize refugees only by persecution and not environmental change, while we know that as of date, a lot of environmental effects are causing migrants to move from different places to another. So basically, climate-induced mobility lacks formal legal recognition, leaving individuals dependent on humanitarian aid, temporary visas, which may also not happen, or internal displaced mechanisms. So now, what is the effect of all this, and how does the global spaces speaks of the policies that are there, that has been adapted globally? So we are going to deep dive on these international policies. And as I am getting further into these international policies, please, if you have a question, you have a concern, there is a point that you haven't gotten clearly, feel free to pose your questions on the chat box. The TEDI team will be noting them, and then we will discuss at the end. First policy or framework that I want us to look at is the Global Compact for Migration, which is called GCM. It's the first global framework recognizing climate as a migration driver. It promotes safe, orderly, and regular migration pathways. So it encourages adaptation, planned relocation, and also data collection. Well, so first of all, we all understand policies, right? These are frameworks that have already been put there. These are documents that have already been put there. So basically what we are doing today, we're just going through them to understand what they say, and then later on we'll look into the gaps they are causing into this space. Second is Global Compact on Refugees, which is simply known as GCR. Basically, this policy acknowledges climate as a risk multiplier. The word risk multiplier, meaning that climate is okay. Let me call it something for an easy understanding, that causes a lot of multiplying effects. Like if we have climatic effects, then they keep on multiplying and causing disasters and problems even in other sectors that were not thought of being affected by that. And then it does not create a climate refugee category, as I said earlier. It strengthens support for displaced population on mixed contexts. Another international policy that I would like us to look at is the so-called UNFCCC frameworks, which basically comprise of 3 frameworks into one. One is the Kankan Adaptation Framework, which stands for the Migration as an Adaptation Strategy, and the Warsaw International Mechanism of Loss and Damage, which covers matters on task force on displacement. And then we have the famous Paris Agreement, which recognizes displacement within loss and damage. So basically the flow of the way all these 3 frameworks have been brought together is basically in 2010, the Kankan framework was brought alive. And then in 2013, the loss and damage, which is the Warsaw International Mechanism. And then in 2015 is where we got the Paris Agreement. And then we also do have the Sendai framework for disaster risk, reductions, my apologies, which basically focus on reducing disaster risk that cause displacement. It covers early warning systems, resilient infrastructures, as well as DRR integrated with mobility management of the climate refugees. And then we also do have the Nansen initiatives and PDD, which basically PDD is the Platform on Disaster Displacement. This one focuses on cross-border disaster displacement, created the protection agenda, and also basically it's being implemented now through the Platform on Disaster Displacement. We also do have We also do have the human rights framework, in which now the human rights framework comes in as a general international policies that touch human perspective, which now this is the right to life, the right to safety, the right to housing, the right to dignity, saying that if a refugee, climate refugee as we call it, are moving in different locations, do they have the rights to life? Do they get, are they in the safety, locations? Do they have housing? Is their dignity being kept? And under it now you realize we also have some now sub-frameworks like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We also have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We also have the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. I will have a question before I move to another slide. But before that, we all know that the human rights apply regardless of migrant status, which are used to protect climate displaced people indirectly. I have a question to all of you. Is there anyone who can tell us in brief about these three core human rights frameworks? Just if you have ever heard of anything regarding the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, please. This one you can raise your hand, and then I will allow you to share your thoughts if there is anybody who knows anything regarding these three frameworks. Anyone? Okay. Is there anybody who's raised their hand? Am I seeing clearly? No.
Would you
So
repeat your question, Gloria?
Yes. So I just wanna know if there is anyone here who have ever heard about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Just in brief, what do you know about them, or what comes in your mind when you hear these terms? Are they like new terms to you? Because this also helps us a lot in understanding
Well, the covenant of human rights is one of the most critical ones of these international agreements and covenants. I mean, it's the basic of how the world is supposed to work, how the things should run in each and every country. Unfortunately, it's not going by these covenants in many parts of the world, but these at least show us the standards to reach.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sitki, for that. Thank you so much for the contribution. Is there any other person who wants to speak maybe on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights? It's good that we engage and we all learn from each other. Yes, please, Saina. I've seen your hand. Go ahead, speak.
Okay, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, what I know is that it states that each and every person has the same rights, disregarding where they are from, disregarding the country they are from, and where they are from, we all share equal rights. So they emphasize on everyone having equal rights, disregarding their background and their origin and there are segments and different rights that are explained in the declarations.
Wow. Thank you so very much, Saina. Lovely. Is there anybody who also want to share what they are aware of on International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights? Anybody? There has to be somebody who knows about this thing. Anybody want to share on international covenant on social, on economic, social, and cultural rights? Yes, Mr. Oneka, thank you. You're speaking on a muted mic. Let me unmute you. Yes. Now you can.
Human beings are by nature quite self-centered, or I can say selfish. That's why you say when you look at the imbalances that obtain in different spaces, there's a need for us to have a kind of a central structure that unfortunately does not apply because of our self-vested interests, people looking at things in their own spaces. But you see, if you look at the divides across the world, north, south, south, north, and south, south, you realize that are people who have been oppressed. In many cases, sometimes you see they may actually want to be free, but that freedom is not actually guaranteed. So you see a structure that makes it possible, maybe through states or through different conventions, makes it possible now for people to rally behind a cause. And I think that's the basis upon which these rights are actually enshrined, maybe through the United Nations and other covenants, to make it possible now for people to have a space where they can easily be able to ventilate.
Wow. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Oneka, for that. I can see Isabella Renato's hand is up. You can also share your concern. Yes, Isabella?
Okay, on my view, I feel like this was developed after the Y.E.R. in 1948, after the UN decided to create.
We are losing you a bit. I don't know if it's only me, but you're breaking.
Freedom of speech. Okay, where people can have freedom of speech as well as freedom of trial, freedom to religion. Also, people can be able to have rights to contest and rights to vote and to be voted. So in my understanding, it was developed after the Y.E.R. in order to make it more into political and binding into more into law.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Isabella. You have said it so well. And I would just say that as people who want to learn more and want to become, I would say, more aware on different terms on these international policies, I suggest that we deep dive more into the human rights framework to basically understand the whole context of international policy on migration and climate. That will also help us to further. 1 hour is 100% not enough to ponder more on these policies. Now let's look on the key gaps. What is really lacking on the international policies that we have identified? First, we have all seen and hear that there is no legal recognition of climate migrants, which this is, I would say, the root cause of all the problems, because there are no legal recognition of climate migrants. That means if, let's say today, a climatic effect disaster happens in Tanzania, and then I choose to move to Kenya to be rescued, because I was not, my displacement was not caused because of, let's say, war, persecution, or political error whatsoever, then I'm not recognized as a climate migrant. So this is something that practitioners, stakeholders who are working on this space, this is an area to keep on advocating for. But also the other gap that exists is the weak enforcement of global compacts when it comes to climate migrants personnel, like in terms of the enforcement. What is being taken, let's say, if a community has been affected by climatic effects and then they don't get help, there are no strong enforcement on such. And so these are the agenda to keep advocating on in the global spaces. Another key gap on the international policy is that there is limited climate finance for mobility. Although it sounds and it reads from the surface that the climate space is being financed a lot, but honestly, there is a limited climatic finances, especially for mobility purposes. You know, communities, countries affected by climatic change effects, they can be financed, but then the mobility part is very low still. Also, the political resistance to migration-friendly policies has also been a gap, as I've said. To date, there are no legal recognition of climate migrants. And so this is causing a lot of gaps in the international policy. Now, despite the fact that there are gaps in the international policy space, there are also opportunities for actions. We as stakeholders in the space, for whoever is going to have time and chances to work in the climate sector, these are the opportunities to work on or to study on or to ponder more on. One is integrate climate mobility into national policies. Now that means we are pulling down the global policies into regional and even national policies. And after this slide, I would also like to hear, I know there are people from Tanzania here, some participants are from other different countries. I would like to hear what you know about climate mobility in your country in terms of the policies that have been implemented. Another opportunity is the area of strengthening adaptive migration pathways. What are the pathways in terms of how can we strengthen? How can we strengthen different adaptive migration pathways to safeguard, the human rights, to safeguard the living rights of the migrants or the climate refugee, as we say, globally? This is also another area for action. Another area for action is basically invest in climate resilient communities, educating the communities for them to understand what can be done if climatic effect happens. What should be done? Can we cascade down into education systems? Maybe students from primary schools should be equipped with the right skills, climatic literacy, to understand the climate climatic effect changes so as to build resilient communities. Another area for action is basically expanding the regional agreement. Once we expand the regional agreement, we basically helped to strengthen, or I would say to push more on the implementation of the international policies. Because even the international policies, the way they are being formed, these are the policies and frameworks that were first discussed nationally, regionally, So as young people, how are we involved in the regional discussions about matters relating to climate? Because this is what is going to affect the changes in the international policies. And then the increased loss and damage financing. This is also an area that is needs to be worked on, as when we looked at the Warsaw International Mechanism, the Task Force on Displacement. Again, time will not be enough for us to deep dive further on this framework, but there is still an opportunity to deep dive further and maybe come up with maybe the further research and different projects that will give a proper understanding of these items. Now, before I move to the next slide, where we are going to start learning on a few case studies from Tanzania and East Africa, I would like to hear from a few of you. What have you experienced or see, or if there is anyone here who has participated in any regional agreement from the countries they're from, or national policies discussions on climate mobility? Is there anyone of such experience, please? Yes, Maxwell. And please, if you speak, introduce yourself and the country you're from. Thank you. Maxwell, you can proceed. Maxwell, your hand is up. Was this an old hand? Yes, please. Oh, okay, please. All right. Yeah, go ahead, please. Oh, your hand was up. Okay, since then. All right. Is there anybody who wanna share anything you know about the national policies on climate mobility in your country? It's great if we also get some live discussions, some live perspectives and experiences. Anybody who have been part of any regional agreement on matters on mobility, please? If you're not in the position you can speak, you can also put your comments in the chat box. Nobody? All right, then again, that's an opportunity for action. Please, as young people, as youth workers, as stakeholders in the space, let's try as much to be part of this discussion, the national policies, the regional agreements, because this is what is going to enforce the change in the international policy and frameworks. Now, let's look on a few case studies. So I will touch on two from Tanzania because I'm from Tanzania, but then I will also give you an opportunity to also share from your country if there's anything that you can share that has happened in the past that caused climate mobility. In Tanzania, we have had pastoralists, Maasai in the northern Tanzania, / Arusha in Simanjiro, who were moved because of droughts and erratic rainfall, which reduced pasture and water livestock, lost threatening livelihoods. We also have gotten, I see you can see from the pictures, there was a lot of mud. We also had extreme weather in 2023 in an area called Hanang district in Manyara region, where heavy rains in December happened. It caused drought. It caused a lot of floods and landslide in Katesh and the surrounding villages. And around 87 people died. 5,600 were displaced in neighbor regions and districts, which basically highlighted urgent need for disaster response, resilience, and adaptation measures. You can learn from different international case studies in your free time. You can learn on the East Africa drought displacement. This is also a very profound, I would say, case study to learn, especially those who are interested in the East Africa space. You'll also get to learn how the international frameworks were basically implemented or basically caused even more harm in how the drought the East Africa drought displacement was handled. You can also learn on the Pacific small island relocation is also a very good case study to ponder more and to research further on the effect on international policies on climate and migration. You can also learn on Bangladesh flood-driven internal migration. These three, as we were researching, we found that these are the key case studies that can help the youth worker and basically all of us as we deep dive further on issues on climate migration. So as we are heading to the end, before we get into the conclusion, I'd like to pose a reflection question. But before even we get to the reflecting question, I would like to hear if there is anyone who have a question, you have a concern, you have a suggestion. Meanwhile, I would also appreciate if the team can also go through the chat box, seeing if there is any question there. Do you have any question before we proceed? Is there an item you want to further learn about? Any question? Any concern? Any contribution? Anything that?
Very much.
Yes.
For very helpful presentation. It was great. Would you like to share the test so people can, if you like, while they are here, they can fill it out, the post training test? If not, they can do it later, but if
Oh yeah, sure. Sure, but we can also share that on the emails, but we can also share now. Let me
while
just,
people are here, you know.
yeah, sure. So as we are preparing the post survey question, the post survey form, what do you think should be the role of governments in safeguarding climate displaced populations? What role should governments play in safeguarding climate displaced population? Anyone, you can raise your hand and you can just jump in and share while we share the post survey form. Thank you.
Hello, guys. May I speak? Hello?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thank you. This is Pascal Kangiria from Arusha, representing Arusha District Council here, working with the governments. I think the role the government should conduct or should provide upon playing a safeguarding climate displacement populations. Number one is just providing the clear policies, to create a policy and to make it sure those policies are well implemented so that they can make the better choices, and that can be very helpful for those people who are living in those places. So by making sure by evidence-based, for the well-researched updates, and to put them into policies and to make it sure they are well implemented, so that we can get something that can be better upon safeguarding the climate displacements populations in a given places. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. What's your name again? You said Moses?
This is Pascal Kangiria. Pascal Kangiria.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much, Pascal. And I just like the fact that you're from the government. So you're basically sharing from the government point of view. Thank you so much. We hope that in your work you will enforce safeguarding and safeguard the climate displaced population, especially in Arusha. I'm also from Arusha, by the way. Malik, your hand is up. Proceed, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Malik. The role of the government for me is to provide long-term solutions like safe resettlement or relocation when areas become uninhabitable. Also, reconstruction of infrastructures in areas people move. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Saina, please.
Thank you. I'm Saina Y.E.R from Malawi. I think the government should strengthen international collaborations so that they should help people who have migrated across border, that they should be helped. I believe it's already there somehow. They already have the policies, but they have to strengthen them so that people should be helped when climate challenges arise.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. I totally agree with you, Saina. I totally agree with you. Yes, first Isabel and then Mr. Oneka. Isabella, Mr. Oneka, then Maxwell, then Jennifer. Yes, Isabel?
Okay, on my side, I feel like the government should mainstream the climate change into all sectors, like including the climate change issues in different sector policies like agriculture, in water, housing, and infrastructure planning, so that it can be able to the government can be able to tackle all the risks occurring due to climate changes, and all the communities can be in safe hands. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so very much. I totally agree with you, especially also in the education sector. You know, all this should also integrate into different sectors to cause alignment in understanding. Well, thank you so much. That is so amazing. And then next will be Mr. Oneka and then Maxwell.
Yeah, thank
Mr.
you.
Oneka.
This Oneka from Kenya. I think the government should avoid what we may call the knee-jerk reactions or firefighting. In Kenya, within the Rift Valley region, we just had a mudslinging where several people were confirmed dead, more than 30 people died. But you see, all along, government knew that these people are living in a very dangerous area, but you see they were still allowed to live there until disaster strikes. So I think in terms of the policy, there should also be a deliberate policy implementation strategy to ensure that such things are not allowed to continue, because human life is actually sacrosanct, and governments must take responsibility to be able now to ensure that these people are not left at the mercy of the natural disasters. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Oneka. And I know that Kenya has a lot of these experiences. Thank you so much. Maxwell, please. Maxwell, please. If Maxwell, you're not ready, then Jennifer, you can proceed. Your hand is up.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jennifer from Dodoma, and first I will thank all my colleagues that have already presented the point, because most of you have presented a great point, and even mine have already been presented. So I can just say that in a simple term, that the government should act as protectors, planners, as well as the advocates. Okay, in the term of protectors, the government can guarantee the rights and the dignity of the displaced people. While when I say that the government should act as planners, I mean organizing the safe relocation and adaptation strategies to make sure that our communities are safe. And also when I say the government should act as advocates, I mean pushing international for recognition and sometimes to assist in funding to make things on the right track. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That is so profound. And happy that you're from Dodoma, because I know there's a lot of climatic effects and migration, climate mobility in Dodoma as well. Before we get to Maxwell, I would like to read from the chat box. Gerard Kanuha has said, before the incidents, the government shall play a great part by having in place the plans. It could start with policy, as Kangira shared, having mitigation and adaptation strategies in place. They will deploy in case displacement issues happens. After the incidents, the government shall make sure the planned plans are deployed and in time. And lastly, to keep on updating and strengthening the plans to ensure higher resilience in case the incidents happen in the future. Perfect. Totally agree with you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We really value that. Okay, Maxwell, you can proceed. Guti says, I wish to make a comment on the call. Please, I can't find the hand symbol on my browser. Okay, Guti, after Maxwell, you can unmute. Maxwell, please, your hand is still up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, so my name is Maxwell from Malawi. Actually, what I wanted to share is more about what happened in 2023 about cyclone flood here in Malawi. So actually, the people who affected much were from Chilazulu district. Actually, those people were relocated from the side they were living to another side. So the actual law the government has to do is to find a better place so as to relocate those people who have been affected by the disaster, who have been such a hazard so much so that they should have a better place. So they provided that a better place. Then after that, they had also a time to plant trees and to make sure that the site is so safe, so that whenever maybe there will be some emergency situations coming future, the place should be a better one for them that they can manage to survive, like making it better than it was the place they were in before. So thank you. That's what I wanted to share.
Wow, thank you so much, Maxwell. I totally agree with you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We have Guti. Was it Guti? Yeah, we have Guti and then.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for the lecture. And my name is Guti from Nigeria, just Nigeria. Yeah. So I think the government has a lot to do as regarding catering for the resettled population as a result of the climate change or climate effect. I think one of the things government must do is to strengthen early warning systems. Strengthen early warning system by making available accurate climate data. When these things are available, they pre-inform the populace in time, so they begin to put in place measures, adaptation measures, in order to avoid adverse effects when these things happen. And then another thing is to make policies that clearly state relocation or resettlement policies rather for migrants, especially that are affected by climate change. Here in Nigeria, I think one of the common problems that have been that happens here is the issue of herder farmer clashes as a result of migration of herders due to drought in especially the far northern part of the country. You have herders migrating into the southward part of the country in search of greener pastures because of drought. So when they come in, they most often at times they have clashes with farmers in those regions, and then most of the times there are no clear policies that provide or accept those migrants. Like you earlier said in the lecture, there should be clear-cut policies by government to accommodate or to identify those migrants, especially as a result of climate issues. So I think that's just what I want to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so profound. And I love the fact that you're from Nigeria, all the way in the West. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that. Who else? There's Isabella. Isabella said in the chat box, the government should consider having the climate change fund at hand. This can help solve the earlier challenges happening with climate change. Yes, yes, you know, we should have this. And then Agnes Taji Liundi from Tanzania, she says, well, to answer the question, I think it's important that the government should start considering population from the most crucial stages, from the National Determined Contribution, NDCs, and National Adaptation Plan, NAPs. Perfect. I 100% agree with you on this one. Thank you so much for everyone who is sharing. And then we have Mr. Adam. Your hand was up. Sorry, I missed you.
Okay, thank you. For my name is Adam from Mwanza, Tanzania. In order the government to pray the safeguarding climate to displace the population, for the one of the way which the government can use is prevention. The government can reducing the risk before displacement happens. And the way which can government use is creating land use and development policies that can keep communities out of high risk zones. And also, for the long-term solution, the government must help displace the population, to build stable lives in order to reward support, job training, cash transfers, economic and integration. And also, it can create integration policy, like so relocated population can settle peacefully in new host communities. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. That is so profound, honestly. And let me get into the chat box. Yeah, Dennis Leonard from Tanzania says the government should address the root causes by reducing emissions and supporting adaptation in vulnerable areas. I agree with you, Dennis. The Agape Trail says the government shall recognize climate displaced persons legally, including them in national and international laws as refugees and displaced persons so they can be seen. Also, as the government make decision-making laws and policies concerning climate change effects, the affected community should be engaged too. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for your contribution. The reason why we pose this question is that the reason why we pose this question is because we wanted to understand what is our understanding about what the government should do. Because in most cases, when you discuss about international policies, people think that this is something that maybe only the people in the UN should discuss, or maybe the international policies or global policies, people think they are coming from the space. No, international policies are being made and being framed from national policies. It is us as nationalities from different countries and stakeholders who form these international policies. So it's very important. It's very important for us to be able to understand what's happening and even follow through, especially for those who are working in the government. I'm very happy that we are having people here who are working from the government. So now, without further ado, I'm going to share the link to the post-survey form. So please share, help us to fill the post-survey form. Meanwhile, as you're filling in the form, I will be reading a few comments that have been added in the chat box. And if there is anyone who has a comment, please proceed. As you're filling in the form, the post-survey form, we do have comments from Vernasio. Says the government should create policies that incorporate dealing with climate migration impacts by ensuring that as a nation we are all aware, and this should be included in our education curriculum so that our young people and children grow to know that people can migrate due to climate impact. Perfect. I 100% agree with you. It has to get into the deeper education policies. Government, and this is Gloria Loishie, says from Tanzania again, says government should protect climate displaced population by ensuring safe relocation, securing basic rights and services, and creating long-term policies that support dignity, resilience, and sustainable integration. Perfect. Thank you so very much for your contribution. Please help us to fill in the form, the post-survey form, as we are winding up. We are very sorry, we are 7 minutes late. This calls has to be only for 1 hour. Oh, it grants access. Okay, let's see. Just a minute, let me have a look at it. You can all fill in the questions now, please. The form has been updated. Let me know if you're still, let me know if it's working.
Working.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Gabriel says invest in early warning systems, flood defense, and climate infrastructure. Perfectly agree with you. early warning systems, understanding the seasons, you know, so that communities can prepare. We do have 44 participants as of now. I'll be monitoring the form responses just to see how many have responded as of now. Only 2 people have responded so far. We only have like 10 responses. Let's keep them coming. Let's keep them coming. I'll give it like some 5 more minutes before we close. Thank you so much for all who are participating. And I know most have been asking for the presentation document. We had shared a Google Drive folder, which I'll also post it in the chat box right now for you to have access to it. And then you can also have access to, the, okay, let's see. The link I've posted in the group is a Google Drive folder, which has the presentation and the agenda for the day. So you can download the presentation there. And also, like, most of the presentation that we'll be doing will be in that folder. So you can have a look at that all the time. Thank you, Sitki. I can see you've put your video on. Please go ahead.
I just want to thank you. It was very good workshop. And, you know, I put my video because, you know, I just wanted to show myself at the end of the workshop. So
I know. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sitki, and for everyone who has been participating. As of now, we do have 20 responses for the post survey. Can we keep them coming at least to 40 so we can close? Only 22, I can see somebody's typing. We're getting into 23. And just to also keep sharing that more workshops are coming. We're having more workshops. And so please, on our WhatsApp groups and all partners WhatsApp group for participants, we'll be sharing links for future presentations from different countries as well. The teams in Greece, the team in Italy, the teams in Ghana and Kenya, and all other, the European organizations, partners for the Youth Eco-Resilience Program are going to have workshops. So please, the more you participate in many workshops, the more it gives you, I would say, credits to get an EU certificate at the end of the program, which is something you getting all this knowledge at the end. You should be an expert in explaining matters and working even in the climatic space. So please make sure you're participating not only in TEDI's workshop, but all partners workshops. And also the other thing is to just have an understanding that all these topics are depending on each other. So don't only participate in international policies and you don't participate in the other, you'll be missing the whole objective of the project. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
All right, thank you so much
for your effort and wonderful contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Oneka. I really appreciate.
Asante sana.
Karibu. We only have 27, 24 responses. I will leave the link to the form. You can also share with them in the WhatsApp groups. In your free time, you can fill in the post survey form. I don't want to take much of your time. The meeting is supposed to be only in 1 hour, and we have passed about 16, 17 minutes. And without further ado, I'd like to thank everyone who have joined today and participated and contributed. Your presence is so valuable and we really appreciate. Until next time, please be safe wherever you are. Make sure you are not moving because of climatic effects. Please take care of yourself. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good evening, a good afternoon. You're laughing, Agape, but yeah. All right. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Be safe. Take a good care of yourself wherever you're from. See you all in the next presentation in the next workshop. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.